Hello, everyone. Welcome to your Recovery Toolkit. I'm Asha Brown. Today, we're talking about diabetes and anxiety, and there's so much more to that topic than just those things. But I want to introduce the guest that we have here today. We're speaking with Leann Harris, who is a good friend of mine and really has a lot of knowledge on this subject. So before we get started, I do want to read a little bit of a bio about her so you know where she's coming from. So Leann has lived with type 1 diabetes for 15 years. She is a positive psychology coach for people living with diabetes, and she has a website with coaching information, and that's Delphi Diabetes Coaching. We'll provide links so that you guys can access that really easily. She focuses on the mental fears and emotional challenges that living with diabetes can sometimes create, both for type 1 and type 2. She's very passionate about helping others learn resilience skills and to learn how to counteract shame and blame and overcome diabetes burnout, which many of us have experienced more than once. Her motto is know yourself, know your diabetes, which I love. So Leann, thank you so much for being here today. And before we get started, I also have to say that my favorite motto of yours that I have coined is I have a degree in me. That encompasses so much about what I needed to kind of get over my self-worth stuff when I was starting WOD, and you're very good at coining phrases.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for having me here today.
So let's dive right in because we've got a lot of juicy stuff to talk about. If someone is reaching out to you initially and you're just getting to know them and they're like, I'm so anxious all the time. I'm worried about going low. I'm worried about forgetting stuff. I'm anxious all the time. I don't know how to deal with my diabetes. What would be some of your go-to advice in getting started in helping someone with that issue?
I think first off, we all want to know we're not alone. You know, with type 1 being, won't say rare, but it's not like guaranteed if you sit in a room that you're going to find another person with type 1 diabetes. You know, let them know that we all are struggling with the anxiety behind it. You know, when I was first diagnosed and I was 26, so I was an adult and still remember what it was like to not think about diabetes 24/7, 365. And I remember trying to explain to my friends and family that it's like walking around waiting to be smacked upside the head with a 2x4.
That's a great example. Yes, it is.
Really, you have no idea. You know, you can be innocently doing the same thing you did the day before, or the things you've done your entire life, and wham, you're hit with a low blood sugar. So to normalize anxiety around lows, I think people feel bad because they feel bad. And you know, it's true, but it's unnecessary. I think one of the other things is learning to recognize, and this is kind of where the existentialist in me comes out. There is a large amount of uncertainty with this disease, and we are pushed to control it. And I love air quotes on that one. I don't believe in diabetes control. There are choices we can make and steps that we can take, but we certainly can't control it. So when someone is kind of working through their control, you know, agenda, it's anxiety producing in and of itself. You know, never mind, let's say they have a tough job, or you know, 6 kids, or you know, financial instability. Whatever it is, that's all going to add to the anxiety.
Absolutely.
And just the normal kind of coping mechanisms that we use with that. It's just that diabetes is never talked about it. And I'll be honest, I just find normalizing it a lot of times and saying, yes, this is weird, and yes, this is scary, can lessen anxiety feelings a lot right there.
I really, really like that. And I know for me, when I had to kind of re-embrace the fact that I was a type 1 and that wasn't going away, I felt really good when I vocalized, like, this is very strange. I started talking to my glucometer and my pancreas, and sometimes swearing at it. But honestly, it kind of helped because at least I was vocalizing something. And we're going to talk about the control thing in a minute, but I wanted to touch base back on what you said, is that for the most part, there is a lot of unknown in living with this. And so one does need to find a way to be okay with the fact that we can have our plan that we think is the way it's going to be, but we all have to learn to roll with the punches a little bit with this disease. And the more we can accept that and become a little more adaptable, perhaps over time, the less anxiety we could have, because we get used to it, or we find better coping skills.
Exactly.
What you touched base on, what I want to talk about more, is the word control. And I often will go to the doctor and a nurse will be, is your diabetes controlled? And I don't know how to answer that question because no, my pancreas doesn't work. So no, I dislike that word in regards to diabetes at all. But so when someone is like, but obviously I need a plan, I need to control with physical actions, and they try to compartmentalize it as well emotionally, like this is how I should feel. What do you do when you speak to that kind of concept when working with somebody?
For the first part, again, we kind of work, whether it's type 1 or type 2, I usually try to replace the word control with plan. Here's my plan. These are my choices. Because whether we're type 1 or 2, we're still having to make a lot of choices during the day. And a extraordinary amount of choices, which takes up a lot of brain space. So feeling like you know what to do and you don't have to constantly think and check. Low blood sugar packs. Instead of bringing, instead of over-treating with a bag of jelly beans, I buy the snack size Ziploc baggies and count out 15 jelly beans and put it in a bag. Kind of pre-thinking my week to lessen the amount of conscious choices that you have to make about diabetes. The control, I am the type of person that would rather kind of re-see it or take another perspective of something. So, when the diabetes educator says, are you under control? I was thinking about the question is, are you actively participating in your own self-care? Then yes. Then I can answer yes, because you're right. Otherwise, the question makes absolutely no sense.
I really like that. And that also then empowers the individual when you say, yes, I am trying. I am doing the best I can, and I learn every day and adapt, but I'm actively participating. That's fantastic. And I will also jump on the bandwagon of the planning. It obviously won't solve all the problems.
Right.
But it does lessen some of that excess worry, because if you're low, you don't want to be searching for what to do to treat for it. You want to go to what you know you have and then move on and try to reacclimate as soon as you can.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good. So now with moving into, going to the doctor, and what I come across is that a lot of my clients are avoiding going to appointments. They don't even want to talk about, the fact that I'm trying. They're not there yet. They're actually not testing. They're not at a place where they're able to really absorb the fluctuations with diabetes. They're just totally ignoring it and being in denial about the fact that they're ignoring it. So what you've written about this, and I really liked what you said, but what can you share about the concept of avoidance and denial, and then how to get past it, or how one could think about getting past it, moving towards acceptance?
For me, the denial is always a hard part, and it would be so much easier if we could just deny it. particularly with doctors and doctor's appointments or authority figures, a lot of people are made to feel shamed and blamed about just having diabetes. And I don't need to add any more commentary to the current state of medical affairs in the United States. And I read about this in other countries, so it's not just here. But the finger wagging, my motto, again, there's that corny of the phrase, if you knew it, you'd do it. So it's not always a matter of intellectually knowing what to do. It's also a matter of coming to terms or acceptance. And with acceptance, I don't mean tolerance. I mean that this is truly part of who you are in your daily life now.
Yes.
And, you can say embracing, there are a million different methods to come to this. I personally found meditation, and that was probably my very first step in learning to feel the fear and do it anyway. Which sounds so cliche, but it really does, even though you're scared of going to the doctor and he or she is a little bit in the blaming, education doesn't equal action. So having that support, can someone go with you? Do you have someone else who could go? Can you call somebody when you leave the doctor's office and cry? What are the things you can do to treat yourself gently and with compassion before and after that appointment? Because like diabetes, we don't get a choice. And you can skip going to the doctor for only so long before those consequences catch up to you. Absolutely. And so that, that's not new.
No. And the more you don't go, or like even, in school, when you don't do an assignment or you're sick and then you're like, oh, I still have to do it. All it does is add more stress and anxiety. So we all know that if we're rescheduling, all it does is make it more stressful to deal with. And then, a lot of people will realize, oh my gosh, I don't even have updated prescriptions, and you don't get those until you go back and see your doctor. And I have to say that I love my endo now. She's like a friend to me. But my heart rate still goes up. And it's not her. It's nothing to do with her. It's the act of going there to my endo appointment. It does something to you. And it's important what you said about it's not just being tolerant of it, but it's understanding that this is part of what it's like. And whatever kind things that you can do for yourself to make that work is all you need.
Definitely. The self-compassion part is something I think every diabetic, and when I say self-compassion is, if you met you on the street, how would you treat you?
Ooh, that's good.
Most other people are really nice to other people, but we can be mean to ourselves.
Oh yeah.
So, when you're stuck in that doctor's appointment or about ready to leave the car, you walk you out of the car to go in and just be kind. What would you want to hear? What would you be saying to someone in that situation?
It's so interesting because I wonder why, I don't know if this goes on beyond people with chronic illness, but I do wonder why our go-to reaction to ourselves is not self-compassion most of the time. Do you think that's because we feel like we're supposed to just handle this all, like just accept it because that's just what our doctors have told us? Or, it's just interesting that reaction seems like something we have to learn later, how to be self-compassionate to ourselves.
Yeah, it definitely extends past chronic illness. You can be completely unrelated. Join any entrepreneur group, and they are all most critical of themselves. They're their harshest critics. Look at high performance people, some of my colleagues who do executive coaching, completely outside the diabetes realm. And you've got top executives who just loathe to go to work in the morning because they never feel like they're good enough and they don't equal up. And it is, we would definitely need like all day to discuss why.
Yes.
But it's certainly not, unique to diabetes, but
Mhm.
again, the diabetes context brings it out more acutely in a lot of people.
Well, and I think the thing is too is that we all have to learn that being harder on ourselves and mean or not supportive to ourselves, it doesn't make it any easier,
Right.
and it doesn't create more optimum results. It just makes us actually feel worse.
Yeah, if you look at the end result, if you did a week of, I'm just going to let my brain tell me all the mean things it wants and I'm not going to do anything, and then the next week you apply some self-compassion, look at your end results at the end. What do you have after those 2 weeks? What works?
I love that. That's a perfect nugget of knowledge to end this interview with, because it's such a simple thing to say, but when you really make the choice to be kinder or think about, well, what do I need? Not what I should do, not what I'm supposed to do, what everyone says I'm supposed to do, but what do I need? It does, you start walking with a just gentler grace towards yourself. And that's wonderful advice that nobody needs to pay for or go out and purchase. You can just start doing it.
Yeah, the tough part about diabetes is, to leave you with a thought, is not that we're not having to do it. We don't get that option with the current technology and medicine we have now. Right now, if we can make incremental gains so that you can look back and at least after a week of taking care and using your plan, you at least have a smile towards yourself. And you're doing the things you need to be doing, not out of hate or resentment or fear, but out of compassion, valuing our own health, and moving towards a life you want to live. I mean, I really think that's the picture of health.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. Well, I think we have a lot more future conversations to have about this, because a lot of what you're saying really falls right into the journey of recovering from type 1 and an eating disorder. So thank you so much for taking some time with us today, Leann. And again, we'll provide links not only to your website, but also to some of the articles that I think are really perfect for people to be taking a look at to go more into this topic.
Thank you.